He came to read one poem, then a frog stole every rhyme. The evening settles over the lakeside as soft moonlight pours a silver glow across the quiet pond. Chubby Max soon reaches the water's edge, carrying a small notebook filled with poems he has written from the heart. He chooses a broad, moss-covered rock, sits, draws a steady breath, and opens the notebook beneath the moonlit sky. As the first tender verse drifts into the cool night air, even the pond seems to grow still and listen to his performance. Without warning, a sharp rhythmic ribbit rises from the water and lands perfectly on his rhyme, leaving poor Max startled, confused. Max stops in the middle of the poem and peers around the reeds, searching for the creature interrupting him. Determined not to be defeated, he lifts his chin and reads the next line with confidence, eager to prove his poetic talent. Another deep croak answers at exactly the right moment, matching his rhyme so perfectly that the whole scene becomes absurd. Little by little, Max begins to lose his patience with the fearless little listener who keeps turning every serious verse into a joke. Beneath the peaceful moon, the pond briefly returns to silence, with only the breeze whispering through the tall reeds beside the water. Max gathers his focus once more and delivers another romantic line with all the sincerity and dramatic feeling he can possibly summon. Nearby, the little frog waits with remarkable patience, ready to answer each new verse as confidently as an experienced stage partner. Before long, a strange poetic exchange between a young dreamer and a tiny frog unfolds beside the still and moonlit lakeside. Max reads the smooth, heartfelt words with growing passion, sending every carefully chosen phrase into the quiet darkness around him. Once again, the frog croaks precisely on the beat, as though it has decided to accompany Max and complete the poem in its own way. At last, Chubby Max grabs his head in helpless frustration, caught between laughing and crying at the frog's innocent teasing. A gentle breeze glides across the pond and rustles the bushes, almost as if nature itself is trying to comfort a troubled poet. He breathes in deeply, calms his thoughts, and prepares to continue the unfinished recital beside the shimmering water. The frog looks back with wide, innocent eyes, appearing to understand absolutely nothing about the accusation Max has just made. As the night deepens, Max's voice rises again through the quiet trees, carrying his poem farther across the darkened shore. Gradually, the frog's croaks blend so naturally with the rhythm that their unlikely duet begins to sound like colorful music of the night. Max finally lets go of his irritation and smiles, realizing that this unexpected partnership is far more charming than annoying. He continues reading one careful line after another, now treating the frog as a trusted companion rather than a troublesome interruption. Bright moonlight spreads across the pond, turning the reeds, stones, ripples, and drifting fireflies into a soft and magical landscape. Slowly, Max recites the final stanza with the pride of a poet giving his finest performance before the whole natural world. When the poem ends, the frog releases one last magnificent croak that sounds almost exactly like enthusiastic applause. Max bursts into delighted laughter and realizes that this ridiculous recital has become one of the happiest memories of his life. As the evening grows quieter, the moon hangs above the deepening darkness, and the lakeside settles into a peaceful late-night hush. Finally, Max closes his notebook, gathers his pen, and carefully tucks both away before leaving the beloved pond behind. The little frog remains on its stone, its bright eyes shining as though it is silently bidding farewell to its new poetic friend. Max strolls along the narrow path with an easy step, his heart still glowing from the strange and joyful exchange beside the water. After the young poet disappears into the distance, the lakeside slowly returns to the calm silence it knew before his arrival. Only faint ripples remain beneath the moonlight, marking the place where a gentle and unforgettable evening has just unfolded. Before vanishing behind the trees, Max turns for one final look at the pond and gives his tiny companion a grateful smile. Crickets and other night insects hum through the air like a closing chorus for a long evening filled with laughter and warm memories. He continues home quietly, still hearing the poem and the frog's perfectly timed replies echoing inside his mind. With the last trace of daylight gone, silver moonlight becomes the only lantern shining across the smooth and silent water. Gradually, the pond regains its untouched beauty and welcomes the peace that follows the lively poetry contest. When darkness fully surrounds him, Max lights a small lantern,
Thank you for coming.
marking the
Have a
final
lovely
stretch
evening.
of his journey
Thank
home.
you. This will be perfect
Back
for
at the
dinner.
pond, the little frog settles down to sleep after its long and playful evening with the young poet. The wind moves softly through the reeds, retelling the story of a poem that somehow feels as though it never truly ended. At the same time, Max sits beside his window and records every funny, tender detail in his personal poetry journal. Soon the entire landscape drifts into sleep, while starlight continues to sparkle gently on the dark surface of the pond. From that night forward, Max's poetic spirit grows freer, and he learns to love nature and its smallest creatures even more. As warmth fills the quiet room, he remembers the frog's adorable silence whenever it was not interrupting him with a croak. Deep in the night, the whispering wind seems to repeat the sincere and hilarious exchange that had filled the lakeside hours earlier. Max smiles contentedly and falls into a deep sleep, with romantic lines and playful ribbits still circling through his dreams. At last, the night closes around both poet and frog, leaving them wrapped in the same complete and comforting peace. Every tree, stone, and reed becomes still beneath the soft light of distant stars scattered across the dark sky. The memory of that moonlit recital settles permanently into Max's heart as one bright and treasured piece of his life. As the hour grows late, the moon begins to fade, leaving only the warm echo of an unexpectedly delightful conversation.
oven.
Perfect
Enjoy your
silence
bread.
spreads across the
It looks
landscape,
wonderful.
restoring
Thank
the
you so
pond to the
much.
graceful beauty it possessed before the recital began. Even in sleep, a small smile remains on Max's face as he remembers the frog that helped complete his poem. Time passes slowly through the night, and the entire world seems to pause in order to enjoy the rare moment of peace. In the end, the harmony between the poet and the natural world becomes the most precious gift the quiet night could offer. With his journals safely closed, Max lies down in bed feeling relaxed, grateful, and completely filled with joy. Outside, only the reeds continue their gentle swaying, forming a calm and delicate picture along the empty shore. As the night grows deeper, Max sleeps soundly while new romantic ideas continue to linger somewhere within his dreaming mind. The silence seems to cradle the young poet and carry him into a peaceful world shaped by moonlight, water, and verse. Beyond his window, glowing fireflies dance like tiny lanterns against the mysterious darkness of the night. While he sleeps, his imagination returns to the pond, where he and the little frog continue trading playful lines of poetry. Hours drift by until peace covers both the landscape and the heart of the dreaming poet. That unusual bond between a human voice and the rhythm of nature transforms the evening into something impossible to forget. When dawn finally brightens the horizon, a new day arrives with fresh possibilities for the young poet's life. Max wakes with a smile, immediately remembering the romantic poem he had shared with his mischievous little companion. Warm sunlight reaches across the pond, revealing a clear, fresh landscape that feels completely renewed after the night. He picks up his pen and begins writing new verses inspired by the clever frog and their accidental performance. Along the lakeside, every leaf, ripple, bird, and blade of grass seems alive and ready to take part in another story. With a beautiful morning before him, Max begins a new search for the words that might become his next favorite poem. Under the bright sun, the whole world appears to celebrate, welcoming the young poet and the verses growing inside him. Each step fills him with inspiration, transforming ordinary sights along the path into images worthy of poetry. The gentle pond
try a
seems to
piece of
hold
this
all the
fresh
thoughts
bread.
of the hopeful young
It is
writer,
absolutely
reflecting both
delicious.
his
You have
wonder
done
and
so
his
well.
ambition. At last, Max understands that poetry is not hidden in distant places. It lives inside the simple things surrounding him every day. A quiet happiness spreads through his heart, like nature's own tender answer to everything he had tried to express. As the sunlight softens, new poetic plans rise within him, carrying dreams that feel larger and brighter than before. Nature has taught him its finest lesson. When observed with care, every sound, movement, and living thing can become poetry. Max now trusts the words he writes, whether or not another clever frog appears to provide an unexpected rhyme. When evening returns, a deep sense of peace fills the young poet, even as his imagination continues reaching toward new dreams. Fresh lines begin flowing through his thoughts like a breeze traveling freely across the surface of the pond. As the afternoon light fades, his happiness remains, reminding him of the beautiful and ridiculous recital by the water. The quiet pond appears to preserve that poetic moment, holding the memory of both the young man and the frog within its ripples. His love of life grows stronger through the simple beauty of the peaceful shore and the friendship he found there. As another night approaches, Max's artistic spirit still glows with romantic ideas and the excitement of stories yet unwritten. The rhythm of poetry blends with the sounds of evening, creating a magnificent love song that needs no instruments or words. Watching the light disappear, Max smiles as he remembers the hilarious night when a tiny frog became his perfect poetic partner. He knows now that the peace of nature is a gift he will value and protect throughout every season of his life. At last, he closes the final page of his notebook, his heart as light as the reeds swaying softly beside the moonlit water. Night deepens once more, returning silence to the lakeside and leaving it ready for tomorrow's